Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 18, and I have Darin Starr as my guest today. Don't look so surprised.
Wait, what am I doing here? This is news to me.
Well, welcome. I have been following your podcast for a long time. Tell everybody what your podcast is. We'll just start off with that.
Oh yeah, it's the king of all podcasts, which has been on hiatus now for a long time. So thank you for picking up the slack and giving some people stuff to listen to. So
No problem.
my podcast is the Dropset, where we talk about all things bodybuilding, ideally. Although of late, it's just morphed into like whatever the hell I want to talk about. And it's a lot of personal stuff. I take questions and answers from people who listen. They call in. So I kind of format it like a radio show, although it's not live. But people call, they'll leave a voicemail. I'll play their recording. And then it's like my chance to try and be like a fake radio host. So it's
Howard
guided. So I want to make sure I'm always talking about stuff that people care about. So that's my cheat trick for doing that. Is I'm like, what do you care about? I don't know. Call and tell me. Give me your questions. So.
Yeah, and that's awesome that you have it set up that way, because I've left my comments and I'm like, that is so easy to just call and just let it go. Just go somewhere.
Yeah. And sometimes I've had to edit some of those, like not yours, but some of them I'd have to edit down. It's like, okay, this is 6 minutes and this is kind of rambling here. And it's like, we need to do a little chop. Okay, there we go. Let's condense that a little bit.
I mean, it can be really like when you're just like on a free-for-all on a phone call, you're just kind of like rambling on and you're just like, is he going to understand what I'm talking about? Like, does my question come off clear? Where the podcast, you got to just bring them on the show. Just be like, here, just get on here.
I know. Let's hash this out. So I think your question was about like a lat pull down. Let's talk about some coffee instead, because I didn't understand what the hell you were trying to talk about.
People always have training questions, though. I mean, would you say that most of your questions are probably like more training or mostly or nutrition?
I think more of them should be training related, because I think that's one of the things about bodybuilding is, and if you've been doing it for long enough and you've experienced some success with it, then you understand there's a lot of value in digging into the details. It's like just going and like getting in a good workout. Like, no, we're not going in to get in a good workout. You've got to go and train, which means, yeah, you're trying to beat up your body a little bit, but it's more about what happens up here and thinking about the execution of specific exercises, rep to rep. Like, talk to yourself. Like, was that a good rep? I don't know. Let's see. How can I cue in on that better next time? So I always want to get people to think more and more about that and focus less about the kind of garbage. Is this podcast rated? Can I say stuff here?
Oh, no, you can go off the rails. I don't care.
Okay, cool. So I want people worrying about less bullshit like, oh, what's the right kind of split? Should I take this many days off? I'm like, just go work, shut up, and stop worrying about the stupid garbage like that. Because if you just go and put in good quality work and think about your execution on everything, you're going to be much better off than thinking like, oh, I don't know if I should stick with like reps of like 10 or 15. It's like,
they get so stuck on a number. It's a number.
Yeah. And a lot of people are too worried about their diet also, which sounds weird coming from a prep coach. But you can't be fixated on like, oh, what are my right macros, et cetera, if you're not following it. And that's the problem that most people have. You got to follow it before any of that shit matters at all.
Exactly. Yeah. And you are a macro-based coach, right? You give your clients like a straight just macro list, or do you do meal plans, or both?
I do both. Yeah. It depends. I would love to go straight macros, but the problem is a lot of people don't understand how to track macros. And I do not have it in my schedule to be able to teach every single person the finer point of how to do it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are just really intimidated about anything involving numbers.
I know I would be. Just
like, I don't need you to do differential calculus. I need you to be able to add and count. It's not that hard. But at the same time, some people like, I mean, with your coach, you follow a meal plan, right? That's what I get. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for some people that just works because they're like, you know what, just take the guesswork out of me. And a lot of people can do that. Like, you're dialed in. I see you get your changes and you're like, okay, I'm implementing this. I'm doing more of this week. This got pulled down a little bit. Mm-hmm. And you can just do the same shit every day. And there's a certain kind of person that's set up for success like that. And a lot of people aren't. And in this day and age, that doesn't mean that you can't be a successful bodybuilder.
No.
If you're in a position where like, I just need a little bit more variety, it's not a character flaw. You know, that's not something where it means you can't succeed as a bodybuilder. It's just a different approach.
Exactly. And I know what you mean, because I have a friend who I'm trying to help. She's getting into this slowly, and she just got a meal plan from a coach. And I just, try to tell her where she's already just confused about. So she can have like tuna and white fish. She can pick between the two. But then
Ooh.
she was like, well, one of my meals is salmon. And like, if I don't have salmon, what do I do? And I'm like, see, that's where I can
You
tell
have
like
salmon. That's what you do.
because then I'm like, well, you can't just switch salmon with chicken. Like the reason why you have salmon is for the fat.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure as a coach like yourself, you probably get that kind of shit all the time.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think I told you in our lead up to this, I'm like, ask me whatever you want, and I will just give it to you straight. I'm not going to censor myself here or anything like that.
No, please
So
don't.
I, I get a lot of stuff like, you know, well, this is what's in my meal plan, but can I do this? And I just tell people, I'm like, look, I don't give a fuck. Like if you, I mean, I care about your success, but honestly, and this is the God's honest truth. When I build a meal plan for somebody, I start with the numbers, and I'm like, okay, what foods are we going to use to get there? I don't care. What do I think is going to help this person succeed? Because, post workout carbs, do we do sweet potatoes? Do we do rice cakes? Do we do this, that? I don't care at all. So I listen to their food likes and aversions and try to base it around that. And invariably, I write a meal plan. And I'm like, oh, I'm putting avocado in here for a fat source. And then the next day, I'm like, oh, I forgot to mention I don't like avocado. I'm like, that's why I hate this shit. Just because, I mean, I get food aversions, but it's just dealing with that kind of stuff all the time. And the other thing about the way that I work meal plans is I only write in what I use. I only use what I call food commodities, which are things that are the same everywhere, like rice, potatoes, chicken, eggs. You go to any country in the world, you find any brand of that stuff. If it's packaged, it's all going to be the same. Versus like, is there anything wrong with having a bagel as part of your meal plan? Well, if you're not really gluten sensitive, not necessarily, but I can't write in a bagel because that might be 15 grams of carbs or it might be 60. It's like, and if I say, well, go get this brand of bagel, then I start the conversation. I can't find that brand in my store, which is why I don't write meal plans for anyone who does anything plant-based. I have no aversion to those people at all. I have a lot of plant-based clients, but I can't write your meal plans because I don't know what kind of protein substitutes you're going to be able to find in the store. And like tofu is not a commodity. Like that's very different based on one brand to the next. So like, if you're plant-based, cool, more power to you. I need to make sure you know how to use macros.
Yeah, and that's good that you're open and you're like that. Like some people are just like vegans, plant-based, no, not even doing it at all. Where I mean, that's where I'm sure the macros come in hand for you to just.
Yeah, and I've seen enough plant-based bodybuilders who've been really successful that I know like that is not the route for me. Like I would rather eat raw stuff and just like go and hunt down my food and kill it if I have to, rather than have something plant-based.
Sure.
And that's probably a little extreme actually, because I'm kind of a wuss when it comes to that stuff. I don't kill it. We found a mouse. We found a mouse in our garage last weekend that had gotten stuck in a flower pot and couldn't get out, and had probably been in there for like 4 days and was almost dead. And we took it out and we like put a little thing of water in front of it, and we took some bread out for it and let it and just washed it for like an hour as it was just like constantly drinking the whole time. And that's who we are here. So, I'm an animal lover, but chickens are raised to be eaten, so I don't feel bad about it.
And as a bodybuilder, we eat the egg, we eat the chicken. I mean, we eat all of the eggs, and
we save the bones for our dogs.
Yeah, it's as simple as it gets. I'm literally like, go to the store and buy your protein, and like your carbs are simple. And I'm like, you can't get much simpler than the potatoes and the rice, like you were talking about. I'm like,
and it works. It's not the only path, but it works.
Right. And I'm just like, that's another thing with the communication with a coach. I feel like sometimes like clients, they'll ask like stupid questions, but then they won't even want to ask the coach sometimes. I'm like, you ask your coach. That's what you're paying them for. Even if you annoy them a little bit, and especially if you're new, just do it.
What? And that's the thing. Like I have, I told you, I tell you everything, right? So I do have some clients that annoy the hell out of me. Absolutely. And it's like, we've been working together for a year and you're still asking me this. what? But then I've got people who, like, on the first day, I send their plan and they're like, here's my list of questions. I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, because that tells me that you read everything and you care and you understand the level of detail that's necessary to go into this. So you're thinking about this stuff. And one of the most common questions, it's so funny to think about the kind of things that people freak out about. They're like, can I use, like, do I have to be low sodium? I'm like, no. And they're like, well, can I have 0-calorie drinks? I'm like, absolutely not.
Exactly. I'm like,
No
what are you
way.
overthinking?
Yeah. By the way, I don't know if you're a Monster Energy person or not, but
I've
this
had it.
one, the pink, the Ultra Rose, I've
Yeah.
recently discovered this one.
Rose. That must be
Uh,
new.
Rosa. I'm sorry, Ultra Rosa, but it's got a little accent over the A, so
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
know.
it's rose, but I didn't
If
even know they had that flavor,
if it
honestly.
was rose and it was more like wine, I'd really be down with this. But
Oh shit, that would be
yeah,
good.
yeah. You're in prep. You can't think about that stuff though.
I have my coffee. I'm all right. I swear.
Yeah, you
I
say
mean,
that now.
I know. I don't even feel like I'm in prep. I like kind of feel bad about it. Like I feel like I'm like 4 or 5 weeks in. I haven't like lost any weight, but I
Yeah,
look better. So I'm
yeah.
like,
That's all that
I
matters.
don't. And I try not to like. We're talking about like talking to your coach and not like freaking out about stupid stuff. And I know if I tell her about the scale, she'll freak out. Like if I tell her like it's bothering me, as a female, like we get so caught up in this number, and I'm just like, well, didn't change again, so I'm just gonna tell myself it don't matter.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's
and I have that conversation with my clients all the time because I'm a data guy. I have a background in engineering. So I'm like, give me the numbers.
yeah.
And that doesn't mean that's all we're going to rely on, but it's one piece of the pie that I want to look at. And so I have that conversation with clients all the time. Like, why isn't the scale moving? I'm like, I want you to collect the data and report it and don't worry about it beyond that. Except if you are worrying about it, tell me because I'm going to explain to you why I think what something is or isn't happening.
Mhm.
And the idea being, I want you to learn about this a little bit so that, once you move on, like you do this show, you do the 4 or 5 shows that you want to, you have your 2 or 3 competitive seasons, and then you go on, you want to raise a family or whatever. Well, you're learning some skills that you can take with you beyond that. So you can still have a better idea of how to manage your body and expectations long term, way after you fired me as a coach.
Yeah. And that's what I don't think people realize that either. It's like, I don't want you to be dependent on me
No.
when you're a coach. It's like, you're going to have to grow up and, this is just like college. You take your classes with your coach, you graduate and you should be fine. Go
We
off.
have office hours every week.
I'm here if you need it. If you need to talk, I'm here. You can email me, but I
There's a
eventually
lot of
want to
weed
be
and
close.
alcohol involved. Oh, wait, no, it's not like that.
Not like that part of college. No. Maybe some people get by with that.
Yeah, maybe. I didn't go to, well, I did a brief stint in college right out of high school, but I didn't go back until I was 30. So I had a very different college experience from most people in that all my classmates were 18. And I'm like, you people are annoying the shit out of me. Oh my God.
When you went back to school for like the training and coaching part of
For
it?
engineering,
Oh, for
actually.
engineering. Okay.
Yeah. The first time I went for music when I was 18. Yeah. And I realized very quickly, like, man, music majors are an insufferable group of people. They're the worst. They're the worst.
I feel
Just
like you
because
have
it's
that
like
odd spectrum of like the stoner music people and then like the really like the piano, like really quiet goody two shoe type of
the
people.
stoner people would be cool. The problem is all the music majors are like just the super pretentious kind of like,
Mm.
I listen to classical music, therefore I am cool. And oh, did you see the so and so performance on PBS the other day? I mean, seriously, these are 18-year-old kids, and they're all like trying to act like they're some 60-year-old sophisticated music professional. I'm like, learn your instrument. Learn more about theory. But there's always this one-upsmanship where they're trying to prove that they know more than the next person. I'm like, whatever. I was listening to Beatles records backwards, so screw y'all. I don't care.
Yeah. Everybody's got their thing. You know what I mean? And when you go to college, there's always that one kid that drives you nuts. And you're like, okay, yeah, you're just going to be a teacher's pet all your life. Good job. Like,
Yeah, I'm like,
have
you
fun.
take your Wagner. I'm just going to listen to Zeppelin over here in the corner. I'm good with it.
Exactly. So you went from music to engineering, and then I think if I can recall, like from one of your podcasts, I think you talked about you did a lot with computers,
Yeah.
like, like
In between those, yeah. So I was a music major the first time, and then I dropped out because, strangely enough, I got a D in college algebra. So I'm like, this is not for me. Why do I, as a music major, all I have to do is count to 4? Why do I need college algebra? So it's kind of funny that then I would go back for engineering later on and ace all the calculus classes. It's amazing what 10 years of maturity will do for you. But in between, I worked in the tech sector. I worked for a computer peripherals manufacturer, doing tech work, and then I worked for a small digital signage company. And when I say small, like the whole company was 6 people. Where, when you work for a company that's 6 people, everybody does everything. So I was a one-man show going to trade shows to represent the company, and then I come back and I'm like, yeah, Darin, we need to take out the trash and this and that and the other thing. So it's like you get a little bit of like, but you have to, it really prepared me well for this, where, as a one-man show for my training operation, I have to do everything. Like I have to do the technical side and all the client stuff. I'm like, I'm my own webmaster. I'm my own marketing person. Like that's it. I do everything. So it kind of taught you how to wear a lot of hats.
Yeah. And you have a podcast and you're doing your music outside of this. So, and I'm sure you've gradually been able to, organize your time and have a structure with your clients to make it easier you tried to, right?
I don't know about that. And I'm also going to say I'm doing a podcast. The most I'm doing with it right now is I'm being on yours, actually.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because you've been.
I do have 175 episodes in the book, so I feel like chew on those for a little while.
Right. There's plenty. And I'm sure, with your, music that you've been working on for a while, I know that takes time. Like, how long have you been in your new music? Like, this has been like a year like a project, right?
Yeah. So the album that we put out, we released it in August. That had been in progress since November of last year, actually. So we started like hardcore writing stuff in November, got into the studio in March, just as the world was kind of shutting down. And it took us from March until like late June to do everything, because, we aren't the only ones in the studio, but you book it for a day and then you go in, and we might have 2 days this week. Oh, we don't have anything the next week. And then we've got 1 day the week after that. So you're kind of piecing together the whole album over time.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those songs, though, they go back, and I wrote them like when I was 2022. Like they've been floating around my head for a long time. So it's been some of the songs are a lot more mature than others as far as like when they were written. But yeah, it was November to August from like when we really started writing until it was actually out there in the world and people could listen to it. So and so ever since that happened, like the day it released, I'm like, cool, I've got 5 more songs ready to go, and now I've got 6 more beyond that. And the problem is my wife is our lyricist, and she's like, I need a break. Like, all right, well, by the time you're ready to start writing shit, I'm going to have 40 songs for you. So don't take too long of a break.
Yeah, right. I'm sure that's a lot, just depending on other people just to get the whole project done.
Yeah, but I can't sing, at least not well enough to, I have done some singing, but not well enough that anybody's going to want to hear it. And I've tried writing some words and I'm pretty bad. So we have very much like an Elton John, Bernie Taupin kind of approach, where it's like music, lyrics, 2 separate camps completely. I did write lyrics on 2 of the songs that were on the album that we put out, and they're pretty good, but I also feel like that's all I got. The well is dry now.
You're like, hey, we're just going to start this off, see where it goes and keep it going, because obviously your passion's there for it. So you'll want to stay motivated.
Yeah. And it's really easy. Like, it's like my goal now is like, all right, let's get this workday done, and let's see if I can still get like 30, 45 minutes over there on the computer to work on the latest mix for something, because the audio production side of it is what's more fascinating now as much as anything else. And then the songwriting is almost just a tool to have something to practice that with. So
it's interesting how your music and your coaching is kind of the way that like your process of it is kind of sounding the same.
Yeah. No, it's very true. It's very true. And I was commenting to somebody the other day. I said, because we have a song that we're working on right now that we're actually recording the whole thing here at home. We're not doing it in the studio. So, and this is our Christmas tune. So, with any luck, we'll have it wrapped up within a couple days, and it will be posted and available on Spotify and all that stuff, just in time for the holidays. So, it's what I've found though is like workflow when you're in the program doing the mixing and the editing and all that stuff. Your workflow is so important, and I found out why, because right now on that computer back behind me, where is it? It's behind that curtain right there.
Oh, okay.
That curtain is forming a wall of our vocal booth. It's kind of like a little isolation booth that we popped up. That's actually my mirror from my gym out in the garage that I put on wheels and then just
Oh,
draped a blanket over it. So, um,
that's a wall.
yeah, it's a wall. But right now on that computer, I've got like 7 things that I had just had to leave last night, like half done. So now they're all rolling around my head. Like, God, I hope I don't forget what those are, because it'll be really difficult to go back and put the pieces back together and figure out, like, it's like you've got this broken piece of glass and you're trying to glue it all together and hope that you've got a place for every little piece to fit by the time you're done.
Yeah, and with how things are today, I have to like write notes and stuff for everything. I will forget. With cell phones and the computers, I'm like, my brain is overload, and I don't, I don't know how people do this.
No. I mean, it's difficult, and with work, it's a little bit different because I have a very defined process for how I go through everything there. Back on that computer, I'm a total amateur. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, hardly at all. So if I'm able to spit out something that sounds halfway competent, you know what? That's going to be like the biggest victory in my life.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that, to see if that happens. And if it doesn't, you learn. But I'm a total amateur there. Like I barely know what I'm doing at all. Here, it's like, okay, I've got my workflow, so nothing gets missed, nothing gets left behind. I don't miss anything. I forget stupid stuff all the time. Like my clients, I swear, there's probably a running joke between them. Like, when I'm supposed to send out a new set of workouts, that's always a separate attachment in the email.
Oh, okay.
And I get so accustomed to sending out emails that have 2 attachments. Like, here's the updated version of your plan, and here's a voice note, because I record audio feedback for every client check-in that I do. So I get so used to sending out emails with 2 attachments that sometimes there's supposed to be 3, because the workout plan will be a 3rd one, and I always forget to attach it. So I'm recording a voice note. Hey, so-and-so, so yeah, everything looks good this week. I'm checking out your diet here. Okay, questions, cool. We're due for a new split. Awesome. We've been 4 weeks on this one, so I'll attach that here. And then they're always like, hey, so you mentioned a new split, but I don't think it made it through. I'm like, no, I'm a moron and I forgot to attach it. That's what happened here. So I forget that all the time, but otherwise I'm pretty idiot proof, which I need to be.
That's actually a question that I had received. So how do you decide training styles to a client? Like, what's your approach with their training?
That's a good one. I like it.
Well, somebody had it, so.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, my style is, and this is going to sound, I'm trying to think, like, how can I make this sound something other than just totally lazy? Yeah, I'm just going to roll with it. My idea is to seek out clients that all fit a similar training style.
Okay.
So like if you're going to compete, for example, you're going to follow a hypertrophy based plan. Okay. If you want to do CrossFit and compete, I'm not your coach. Like, there might be a way to make that work. I don't know what the hell it's going to look like.
There's not.
And I'm not on board with that. So there might be a coach out there that can help you with that. It's not me. So we're always going to be kind of in the same general box for training. And if you don't want to compete, the people that find me are the people that maybe don't want to compete but want to look like they could. Well, guess what? Same training style for you. Same thing. So I kind of cater my website to try and funnel towards me people that are going to benefit the most from a hypertrophy based plan. Yeah. And so from there, the plans that I put together, and I don't do, this might be surprising to a lot of people, I don't do a lot of custom training either. Like a lot of the training that I do, it's not cookie cutter, but it's like built for certain situations. Like I have a handful of splits that I would send to somebody that's doing figure, but I probably wouldn't send to somebody doing men's physique necessarily. Unless they're like really lower body dominant already and they can chill out on their legs for a month. Cool, let's hammer the shit out of your upper body then. So it might be appropriate then. So I've got these set aside, and I've got about 50 of them that are all built, and they're designed to be run for about 4 to 6 weeks on average. So the idea being I can always feed somebody something new that's going to be appropriate for where they're at. And then I will talk about custom modifications to them because, somebody's got lower back issues. They can't deadlift. Okay, well, this workout split's totally good for you, but it's got deadlifts in there. Let's do this instead. So we'll just do a quick little one-off modification for it. Cool. But doing it that way, the way that I present the workouts, I want them to be all formatted nice and neat because, engineering brain. But I also do video playlists for all of them just because I found out long ago you send out a workout program. It's a shoulder routine, and it has 3-way lateral raises, 6 ways round offs, and Y raises, and you're going to get a whole bunch of hands going up. Like, I don't know what the fuck any of that stuff is.
Yeah.
So we got playlists in there for everything already. So you can see me doing it and you can hear me talking about it, and it's just built into it. So that's why I don't do a lot of custom stuff, because it becomes impossible to do that if you're going to write something custom for every single person.
How come clients don't know how to use Google and like find some of that stuff too?
Honestly,
Because
sometimes I'm glad that they don't, because some of the
okay,
shit that they would find would be way off. And I always
I'll tell
tell
you
people, I'm
what.
like, I don't care how annoying you think you are, ask me, because I'd rather have you ask me than go and find some random shit on YouTube.
Okay. Well, that's good that you say that, because I literally have, again, the friend who is starting out and getting a workout split, and then she'll be like, well, what's this? And to me, like, I've seen it all. There's different variations, like you're saying with a shoulder press, like you can do it seated, standing, whatever. And it'll be like, like a face pull or something. And she'll be like, a face pull, is that a machine? And I'm like, well, it's pretty
Or you
basic.
go like this and just cartoon pull your face away. Yeah.
Exactly, like the mask.
Yeah.
You
So, I
can't
mean,
get
that's the thing where it's like, if they're saying, like, what's an RDL? Well, Google that shit. Okay. That's not a very
yeah, the
exotic
face.
exercise.
Yes.
Or a face pull. I'm like, Google it. You will see what it is. And oftentimes people, like, I know this because of my brother, who, he works out a little bit, but he's a math professor. Okay. Um, so that tells you what kind of lane he's in. So he will refer to things as like, it's the leg straightening out thingy, like leg extension. It's like, oh, whatever, sure, okay. So they know what it is. They just don't know it by name. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people like that out there.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I will say. Like, if you're a bodybuilder and you're going to compete, that's not the vocabulary that you can operate with. Like, you need to be able to call things by their proper names.
Yeah.
And I think there's a huge value. And I always try and use big words with people because I want to get them in this space. But, like, I need you to be able to understand the articulations of your body. So if I say hip extension, hip flexion, knee extension, knee flexion, I want you to know what that means. I
Mhm.
don't need you to be a kinesiology major or anything like that. But if you extend your knee, I need you to know that that's knee extension, like you straighten it out. So then when you talk about a leg extension, you know what I'm talking about.
And it's not a leg curl.
No, that would be the
I've
opposite.
heard people do that too. They'll be like, is that like the same thing? And I'm like, no.
I mean, technically, I guess you're curling on the negative, but yeah, that's
There's
not
two
how the
different
naming
muscle
works.
focuses. And then that's where you're like, yeah, this is where the person's really confused on the whole muscle connection. And if you want to be a bodybuilder, that is like, you have to understand that to really like build up what you want.
hmm And I use that a lot also, that general concept when I look at people's pictures and see their weaknesses and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Like, you see it a lot with guys, like anybody, like their back is weak, or guys who their hamstrings are just not weak. It's like we've got a mind muscle connection issue there, and so, like, from day one we need to troubleshoot that. So on day one I'm going to be like, I need you to send me some videos from your back day. Let's talk a little bit about your hamstring workout. I want to see some videos there. I want to talk about how those things feel, because unless you just, for whatever reason, like you were genetically born without hamstrings, you're doing the work, but they aren't growing. So something's not connecting there. So we got to fix that.
Right. Yeah. And you're right. Cause hamstring, that's a huge one. I know a lot of people that, like you said,
Ideally, it's a huge one. Not for me.
oh, like
Mine
I
are
got
little. They suck.
it's a hard muscle to hit. I feel like, I don't know why. It's just like, you wouldn't think because of how many people have to like bend over and pick something up or.
Yeah, I mean, so I get it. Like, I struggled with back for years, and then it kind of clicked and it's come up a lot. And I still struggle with hamstrings. And it's like, I always tell people, if I'm 100% engaged on a rep doing an RDL, I'm dialed in. I can feel that shit. If I'm 90% engaged, might as well not do it.
Do you
Like,
feel
I've got
like
to be just completely dialed in.
a muscle like that, it's better to try to like tell the client like slow and control? It's not about, that's when it's not always about the weight. Like, why don't you ease into it? I just think so many people get stuck on that number, like we talked about earlier, and they want to just keep adding weight. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't have to keep adding the weight, especially on a muscle group that you want to improve. Like, slow it down. You're actually, I don't think people understand that really like can really get that muscle to fatigue faster, and then you will start to feel it.
Yeah, you got to get the connection down. And I think once you can do that, then progressive overload becomes the name of the game. But without that connection there first, it's like, walk before you can run. I did a video review of somebody who was sending me a video of a dumbbell RDL yesterday, and it looked great. Like her form was great. She clearly has like super mobile hips. Like she went and dumbbells almost all the way down to the floor. Her lower back wasn't rounding at all. Like it was all hip flexion. I'm like, that range of motion myself. That is really good. But she was doing it with 15-pound dumbbells. I'm like,
Yeah.
your mechanics are great. More weight. Come on, do it.
Yeah, I guess you're always gonna have a client that's like scared or just goes balls to the wall. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you probably get this if talking with a lot of friends, et cetera, that are relatively new, you'll get the question like, what weight should I use for this? I'm like, I cannot answer that.
yeah, you got to go by feel.
Yeah.
And then I feel bad because if they're working out with me and then, they want to do the same weight as me. And I'm like, listen here, I've been doing it. I mean, if you want to try it, I hate to be that person and be like, that's too heavy for you. Like, no. But then like, I'm in like prep and I'm like, I'm kind of like running some stuff. So I'm like, let's not do 100.
Exactly. Maybe like 30 for you would be good. Let's just start small, And then you say like, you know what? I started really small on this one, and then it kind of started to make a lot more sense. So it kind of clicked, et cetera. But yeah, no. And I'll just, people will ask like, what weight should I use? And like, I can't answer that because, and I'm going to refuse to answer that because it's going to force you to learn a lot more. If you can zero in. So I always tell people, start small. And what you want to do is you want to get full range of motion. You want to feel the muscle that you're trying to target work. You want to feel it get hit. You want to be able to get a good quality of contraction. You want to be able to hit your target rep range. If you can do all those things and you're not dead at the end of the set, literally dead, then you bump that weight up and you keep doing a set and hitting those first three criteria. And if you aren't dead, bump it up. If it sucks and it's really hard, I don't care. Good, bump it up. It's supposed to be. That's why you're doing this.
I mean,
But if your form starts to break down or you get into a territory where you're just brute forcing it to move weight, time out, step it back.
yeah.
You might not be dead yet, but we're now not in a productive space.
Right. Yeah. And this is where a logbook could help, especially when you're starting out. I mean, I think I used a logbook for the first 3 years that I still have. It was just easy. I'm not good with numbers. I have to write the numbers down. How am I supposed to remember these like numbers each week
Yeah.
for 6 to
Yeah.
7 work exercises?
Yeah, I use a logbook every day. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and if I don't use my logbook, I feel like it's just a waste of time.
And then again, with getting stuck on numbers, I feel like people never want to keep going up in weight because they're like, well, I have to get 16 reps. It says 16 reps. And I'm like, I started out like that and I understand, but I'm at the point now too where I'm like, listen, that 12 reps was so easy. That's like a huge sign to like go up because even
Yeah.
if I raise the weight and I can only get 8, I still like went up that week.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always tell people like the rep target in your workout plan is always preceded by the word about. It's like
Yes.
about 15, which means if you can get 15, but then you can kind of get 16, 17, get those. Don't stop just because you hit the rep target. Like, we want to explore failure a little bit more. And I think a lot of people have a really poor understanding of what that means. And so you implement something like drop sets, rest pause is really the big killer there. Or I've got a protocol that I created called ascending threes, which is designed to help people really understand like what failure means and what it feels like. It's like, you think you've been going to failure? Okay. So have you heard me talk about ascending threes on the podcast before? I
I
just
think I
touch on it
understand
a
the
little bit.
concept, but go ahead and talk about it.
So the idea is you finish a set at a moderate rep range, like 10 to 12, something like that, at a weight where, around those last reps, you're approaching that failure point. And then you take a quick break, like 10, 15 seconds, get a couple of deep breaths, pick the weight back up, and go for 3 reps. And then go up in weight by the smallest amount you possibly can and do 3 more. Go up in weight by the smallest amount you possibly can and do 3 more until you hit the point where like maybe you can cheat out 3 reps. Good. Go up some more. When you can't even cheat out the first rep, that's when you're done. Then you drop down to about half of the weight you finished at and bang it out to failure. That is going to suck.
Yeah.
That's going to suck big time. And what's going to happen is, I've done that where, I will typically curl where my rep ranges or my weight range is like 30 to 40 pound dumbbells or something like that. Using that, I can cheat up 65s or 70s for a couple of good reps. And so it forces you to rethink like, wow, what am I really capable of? Now, I know I can't do that for 10 or 12, but that feels different. And you're using different muscle fibers. You're using the ones, the 2As, the 2Bs. You're using everything. And then you add the Dropset on top of that, and it's just like cutting a big old gaping wound and just dumping salt into it. It
Oh yeah.
sucks.
That's a
So,
killer pump you'll get too.
yeah.
For
Yeah,
sure.
so it's a good thing like rest pause to use to kind of recalibrate your internal scale as far as what you're capable of. And I think at its core, that's what bodybuilding is all about. It's about finding what you're capable of and then finding ways to do a little bit more each time out.
Yeah, because like in my head, I'm imagining like a lateral raise, which is something I am trying to grow my shoulders. And I have realized like you don't really have to go maybe like a heavy set for like a press. But when it comes to like lateral raises, like that's where the drop sets and the pause, like those type of techniques, like you just want to just crank them out and burn them out. And like you don't
Partial
want to get
reps
too
too.
sloppy, but you do want to just like keep going, even if it's like end up partials.
Totally. Totally. I love partial reps for those. Absolutely. And that's the other thing. Like a lateral raise is such a tricky exercise. It seems like so simple, but there's so many little variables to take into account. Like, this concept. And this is another thing where I always try and get people to think about these articulations. So you've got your arm out here like this. I can't really see it. But, are you internally rotated or externally rotated? Here, and how much external rotation is allowable before that becomes like a rear delt and rhomboid exercise. So I always tell people internally rotate. So I'm describing like the position that your thumb takes if you have your hand extended out to try and explain what internal rotation feels like. And then the concept, like, don't worry about how high the weight gets, worry about how far away it gets from the midline of your body. Just to try and reframe that exercise that I think a lot of people just don't really think too much about because they're like, oh, chicken wings, cool, I can do that. There's so much more to it though.
And it is. And I've realized, because shoulders is something I want to bring up, it has helped to do like a lateral raise somewhere else in the week, like on my chest day. I'll throw in a different variation, but it's still a lateral raise. So that way you're kind of like pushing yourself.
Yeah.
And if it's a body part that you want to bring up, then you're at least you're giving like some time in between, and like you're just keeping that muscle activated throughout the week somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I refer to that with clients as like feeder work, where like if you've got a shoulder day, it's typically on Thursdays. Well, on Monday, you throw in some feeder work that's like one exercise, like your favorite go-to desert island exercise for that body part. If you could only do one exercise for it, what is it? The one where you feel the most dialed in? Do a couple of like 2, 3, maybe even 4 warm-up sets, and then one working set that is balls to the wall. Like this is your one working set to generate as much fatigue and cause as much damage as you possibly can. Now, how are you going to do it? What kind of techniques are you going to use? What kind of strategies are you going to employ there? One set, all the marbles, and then boom, put that aside and then go hit chest or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's helped dramatically too. And I don't think I would have ever, I mean, I just started out this off season, but I remember just starting out, it was like just chest, just shoulder day, just leg day. Like I never like realized until later on in bodybuilding that it's actually really good to start kind of finding a good combination of body parts and how everything works, and to keep improving. It's good to just kind of jumble things up a little bit. But
Yeah.
this is also coming from someone who has years of experience, so I can understand with a new person, you're kind of do this, don't go crazy.
Keep it simple at the start,
Yeah,
and then you can get a
simple.
little fancier as you go through. So I was curious because I remember when you competed. God, was that last year? That was 2019, right?
Yep, May, yeah.
May?
I know, it's been a long time. May 2019 was the last time I was on stage.
I got you beat. April 2012. So yeah. So what was your stage weight then, and where are you now?
Well,
This is gonna be
so
funny. I'm ready for
I'm
this.
just laughing because the goal, so that off season was pretty sloppy. That was that was my first serious off season where it was kind of like, okay, I'm going to keep a coach. I'm going to keep a structured plan. I'm no longer with that coach either, but like that off season was just sloppy. So I think I was pushing, I forget what my off season weight, to be honest, was, but I think it was getting close to like 160.
Mhm.
So, and that was a sloppy 160. So then for stage, the goal was 125, but I remember I only made it to 129 stage day. And at
Okay.
that point, I was kind of like, I don't even care. Like, I'm here. I know I'm not the worst looking person, is what I told myself.
Well, I remember the tail end of your prep was certainly not smooth.
Nope. 3 weeks, I just coached myself. So I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. And I was just happy to be on stage. And like, I knew that it was just going to be a one show, just do it. I mean, I won my class, so that was cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That's proof of concept right there. So, yeah. So I guess I haven't done a podcast recently to talk about this, but I'm actually doing a show next year. So
that's awesome. I feel like, have you hinted this in a story maybe on Instagram?
maybe, yeah. I do these random Instagram lives sometimes when I'm cooking
Yes.
breakfast too. And I dropped it in there once, but I don't save those. Like I don't keep those
Yeah.
around as IGTV posts or anything. So
Well, that's exciting because yeah, I did want to ask you too eventually, like your show history. So, um, was it an NPC show? Because I'm not seeing anything on the NPC news website.
yeah. So I mean, it's far enough back. It's probably not in the archives.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm assuming because I was just like, I thought he would have. I was like, he had to have done an NPC show.
I've done a few shows. I've done one NPC show, and it was the Charlotte Cup in April of 2012
Okay.
in North Carolina. And before that, the only thing that I'd done was a couple of unsanctioned shows that are like put on by gyms or stuff like that. They're not affiliated with a federation or anything. You'll
Okay.
find a lot of those like on military bases. They're having like a base bodybuilding show or something. That's not me, but it's like that kind of thing. And the problem is, and this kind of this will give a lot of insight into my personality and where I'm at. So I did that show ultimately, the Charlotte Cup, to prove that I could do it.
Okay.
And um, to prove that I could do it in the sense that the ones that I had done before were smaller affairs and I was surrounded by people that I knew.
Okay.
Because I do not do well in crowds. Like I've gone to therapy for social anxiety. Like I literally can get into like a panic situation in a crowd. So like I go to a party for my wife's work because she's a teacher, so there'll be like some event, and it's like it is a serious like anxiety provoking thing for me. Like I've got to like, what can I wear where if I sweat buckets under this shirt, it's not going to soak through because that will happen as soon as I walk in the door. Like it's bad. It's bad. So I did that show to prove like I can get up there in a big crowd with a lot of people backstage in front of I don't know anybody here and do it. And I did it. I'm like, okay, cool, done. Peace out. And I'm like, maybe I'll compete again. You know, that's fine. And I found that I really like the process. And coaching other people through it, I really like the process of doing that. I do not enjoy show day at all. I don't like going to shows. I don't like being in the crowd. I don't like being in the audience. I like watching the people on stage. And so I'd be totally fine. Like, you know, we need more live streams. That's great. I'll do that.
Sure.
I don't like being there. Um, and so when I lived in North Carolina, which is why I was in the Charlotte Cup, I had a lot of clients who were in the state. And so I went to all the shows in the state. And that's when I realized, like, man, I do not like going to these shows.
Yeah.
Um, and like, I'm there to support my clients. I'm like, they don't need me there in a technical capacity. They need a friend who can just hang out with them backstage. I'm like,
Calm
whatever.
nerves.
Yeah, I'm like if I'm here and I'm making last minute adjustments to your plan and like micromanaging your water, that means you aren't lean enough and we didn't do our job during prep. Like show day should be pretty chill. You should be able to know, like, you know, because during peak week, like I check in with all my clients every day during peak week. But like
Mhm.
going into show day, I'm like, here's the plan. That's gonna work. And if it's not, cool, text me, let me know what's up, shoot me some pics, and we can make some adjustments. You don't need me there. Thank God, because I have clients all over the country. So I'm not. There's too many shows to go to.
So what division then? I mean, you seem like a classic person to me, and I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but was there even classic in 2012?
I did bikini actually.
Oh,
The heels were a trick, but I figured it out.
hey, makes
Um,
the legs look good.
yeah, no, I like that. No, they that was pre-classic physique, so I did bodybuilding
Okay.
back then. I competed as a middleweight, so I was rocking like 176 on stage. Which thinking about that now, I'm like, that's a miniature version. So
Well,
9
I
years
mean,
ago.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a couple years, and I'm not saying that in any sort of rude way, but I mean, a lot has
Yeah,
changed. So
whatever.
now it's going to be really interesting to see what your approach is.
Yeah, so it'll be classic physique next year, and I wasn't really sold on it, but um, I switched coaches recently, not because I was having any problems, but just because I reached a point where I'm like, I was struggling with my training. I'm like, I gotta just step back and take a break for a little bit. So I broke off my relationship with my coach, Lainey Hart. I have absolutely nothing negative to say about her whatsoever. She is an awesome coach. She's
Yeah, she's
really,
awesome. I do like her.
yeah, she is fantastic. And I wasn't even looking for a new coach. And then I just started talking with somebody, and then we started it up. And um, she's like, yeah, you said you're not sure if you're going to compete. Yes, you are. So, and like, you're going to compete and you're going to win. And then we're going to put you in a national level show pretty much right away after that. So I'm like, oh, okay. So it's just like, you know, Lainey, I told her, I'm like, I don't really want to compete. Let's just do this. And she never pushed me on that. And that's great. I wouldn't have expected her to. Um, my new coach, Kelly, she's like, no, fuck that. You know, you're getting up on stage. Look at this. You got this going on. You got this going on. You got this going on. Yes, you're going to do it. So,
Yeah, because you got
okay.
ready for a photo shoot was that a couple years ago now?
2018. Yep.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say, I remember that process when you were doing that on the podcast and kind of
Yeah.
talking about it.
That was a bit of a shit show. So hopefully this prep will go smoother than that.
Well, yeah, I recalled that you had some traveling and some family things going on. So,
Yeah, there's a little bit of travel, which that was fine, and then my mother-in-law died suddenly when I was 3 weeks out
mhm.
uh, from a bee sting. So that was like not something that anybody was expecting, and it just turned the whole tail into that into just a massive clusterfuck. It was bad.
Well, here now we're in COVID times, so you're kind of like, I got this. I bet you're kind of
Yeah.
like,
Well,
what's
and
up,
I,
bro?
I was I was telling somebody the other day, I'm like, this whole quarantine thing. I'm like, I'm sorry, has anything changed here? Because this is just kind of how I live my life all the time. Like I feel like this is the Olympics that I have been training for the past several years.
You know, like being stuck inside's easy for prep. I mean, I'm a very social person, but to be honest, like now that I work from home full time, I'm like, if I can't have any excuses, like everything's here.
Well, and you, I remember like when your gyms were shut down, you had a pretty good routine set up at home as well. I mean, it wasn't like perfect or anything, but you made it work and you were able to grind it out and do it.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I definitely was envious of some of these people that were able to still get into a gym or just, had money to just somehow create these like epic home gyms. I get
Yeah.
that. So you kind of have to work with what you can get, which I did bands. But where there's a will, there's a way, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I did bands for about 9 weeks. I got real sick of those
I
real
remember
fast.
you said you're like, no.
Yeah, I'm like, and it's kind of funny if you go back and listen to the podcast from those days. Like, they do not age well. So like the ones in March, I'm like, yeah. So there's this virus coming around. I really don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I think I remember saying something like that. Like everybody just needs to chill out and go about your business and do your normal shit. I'm like, okay, please let's not pull that one out of the archives and replay that anytime soon. But I'm keeping it in there, full transparency. Um, and then I'm like, yeah, these bands actually they're a lot more effective than you think. And then like fast forward 6 weeks, fuck these bands. I never want to see them again in my life. They're terrible. They're awful. And so now it's like I've gone full on home gym. So I still have 2 active gym memberships because I don't leave the house to go cancel them. So, but my home gym, it's all set up and I've got everything I need here at this point.
Yeah, what's your new addition? Didn't you just get like a leg press or something? What did
I got a leg press hack squat combo. Yeah. And then I've got a leg extension curl machine. So leg extension or seated curl. I've got the rack. I'm still waiting on my last little add-ons to the squat rack, which are wings that turn it into a cable crossover, which is awesome. I've got a 1,200-pound capacity Olympic bar. I've got about 700 pounds of plates. I've got adjustable dumbbells up to 90s. So, yeah, I'm set. I'm set.
Yeah.
There's something else. Oh, a lat pull down seated row
Okay.
combo machine also.
I feel like the most important equipment is always the leg stuff. I feel like for upper body, I mean, you can get a little more tangible with that kind of stuff, but the leg machines they're huge.
Yeah, yeah. And the leg press that I got, it's that body solid leg press hack squat combo. You can find it around everywhere. That's awesome. Really, really effective. The leg press in particular is really smooth on that. The hack squat's a little bit choppy, but honestly, having a hack squat at home, it's like I don't care. And that's what I need.
Yeah,
So
that's essential.
I just need to go sleep in that thing, I think. just like do it in my sleep, and maybe my legs will get up to snuff to where they need to be.
I wish it was like that for cardio. Like,
Yeah.
I don't mind doing the cardio. I get that that comes with prep, but sometimes I'm like, wouldn't it be awesome if like fasted cardio, like you could sleep or something like during it? Like,
Like some kind of electroshock thing or something.
yeah, something.
Yeah. Now
Right.
I see you posting in your stories like you're going to Planet Fitness in the morning and doing fasted cardio there. So I I used to do it, but I don't think I could do it anymore. Like I cannot imagine leaving the house for fasted cardio and having to come back. Like the fact that I can do it at home in my garage on my elliptical, or I just got a spin bike yesterday. Like that's the only thing for me that makes it doable. So like major props to you for being able to get out there and do it and then presumably come back.
I'm really lucky that I live in between two of them and they're both 8 minutes away.
Oh,
Like,
okay, that's not too bad.
believe me, like the distance matters. If I had to go, like I have I don't usually train at Planet unless like it's just easier for my schedule, but my like hardcore gym is like 25 minutes away, maybe 30 depending on traffic,
Ugh,
which I love that gym. I will drive out there, that's fine, but I would never drive out there to do cardio ever.
hell no.
And I like fasted cardio just because it like starts my day and I'm used to it.
Yeah,
But now that I work from home, I don't mind that quick little drive because
that's not too bad. It's not
no,
too
it's not, but it is gonna suck when it starts to like snow because that's when I'm just like, well, guess I'm gonna do the treadmill, even though the treadmill kind of sucks.
bad. Is that what you have at home?
Yeah, I have a treadmill. It's like my backup if
So
I
you
like.
have an option to do fasted cardio at home, and you still take the drive to go out there and do it.
I want the Stairmaster. I'm sorry, I don't have
You're
a.
hardcore. That's hardcore. I'm like, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, what decisions can I make here that are going to save me 30 seconds today? Like that's the mindset that I get into. And it's kind of embarrassing, my focus on efficiency. But I'm like, honestly, if my coach said, because I'm like, hey, she's like, we're going to be introducing some cardio fairly soon. Full disclosure, I haven't done any cardio since 2018. None, not a single session. So that's embarrassing to admit, but there you go. I said, okay, great. Should I get a spin bike or something? She's like, yeah, cool. Here's some recommendations. Awesome. So I got that. Great. We're good to go. If she was like, yeah, I needed to do it on a Stairmaster, I'd be like, yeah, this isn't going to work for me. Sorry, I can't do it because it's like having to go to a gym to do fasted cardio in the morning. I'm on such a tight schedule. I'm like, no, it doesn't work. No.
Well, it
So
sucks
I have
too.
my lines.
Like I don't know how it. Are you? You're in Kentucky, right?
Tennessee.
Tennessee. Sorry.
I resent that. Kentucky. Jesus.
I just know it's in that general area. I've never been down in those states, okay? So I'm like I have to like really think where everything is at down there.
Well, if your gym's closed, come down here because they will never close down here regardless of how many people die. So they're never shutting anything down here.
Well, all the shows are going to Florida, so
Yes, and the
go down
Olympia
to the
now too.
Panhandle. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get it because the whole mask thing, like they're starting to enforce it a little more in the Pittsburgh area again, like Ohio, West Virginia. They're all like, they want you to wear them in the house.
That's a little hardcore.
And I'm like, absolutely not. And the gym, so my Planet is a franchised owned one, so they're pretty laid back. They're not the typical Planet. They're a little more lenient. The other one is though, but you could just walk in with a mask and then take it off right away. It was kind of like a stupid door. It was like a hall pass, like
Yeah.
walk in, take it off. Well, now they're like, no, now you got to wear it the whole time, which I have not had to experience yet.
Mm.
So, and I know my hardcore gym don't give a shit, so they won't.
Yeah. That my problem with all that is I'm like I think of it as like that is the one thing that we can do to make sure that the places that we need have the best fighting chance of staying open.
Right. Yeah.
So I see people who are like 3 states so far that I've seen, New Mexico, Washington, and Minnesota, have shut down their gyms since the weekend. So I'm hearing from all those clients, and like there's a couple like, I know I have seen you post videos in your story of you not wearing a mask in your gym. So the fact that you're complaining about it right now, shut the fuck up because you're part of the problem. So, you know, it's like you got to do your part to try and keep the place open. And I know it sucks. Like here in Knoxville, the gym that I had been going to recently until I got sick of that place and just decided to get all my shit at home. They don't have any kind of mask requirement, even though the county mandates it. But they're like, nope, we're not going to do it. You can't make us. You can't enforce it. And the county chooses not to enforce it.
Yeah.
And so I would go in there and wear it anyway, just as a way of being like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep you guys open.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if you become a hot spot and shut down, you're all going to get pissed because you weren't doing what the county told you to do in the first place.
Right.
Like, just stop being assholes about it and
Yeah,
just be
I want you to
reasonable.
stay open. I'll fucking wear it. I don't think I'm gonna like it, but
No, you won't. It sucks. It sucks ass. The worst part about it is, you know, I'm wearing it and then I've also got these giant headphones so that I don't have to hear anybody, right?
yeah.
So the problem is you can't breathe and then your head's sweating and it's just like, so I couldn't wear my headphones in there.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. Like, they're playing classic rock in the gym. Like, that's cool. That's my jam. The problem is you hear everybody's stupid fucking conversations.
Oh, for sure. And I've gotten better at ignoring people, but you're right, because my friend will be like, man, that guy's talking about this, or he's really loud, and I'll be like, I don't know. I feel like I'm at the point with working out that I'm so honed in. But yeah, the
I
last
wish I was.
thing I do is get distracted.
Like, there's this one guy who's on his Bluetooth set talking on the phone like mid-set,
No.
and he's talking about his spaghetti recipe, and I'm just like shooting daggers at him, and I'm actually saying like, shut the fuck up. Of course, I've got my mask on so he can't see it, but I'm like, shut up. It's like, just it's really the reason I train at home is because I have no patience for other human beings right now.
And you can blast your music,
Yeah.
not wear a mask.
Yeah.
You know, it's your own bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
I
I can
do
come
like
in and like,
giving
man,
other people-
that was a hard set. I need to come in and pet my dogs for a minute. Okay, cool. I can do that. That's nice. So,
yeah. See, I live in like a small dorm size apartment. So I'm like, I want out of here. Especially like I can't sleep, eat, work here all day. I
all in
can't.
the same space.
No.
That's the thing. I mean, we are fortunate to have a nice place here. So I feel like, you know, I mean, I spend 90% of my day right here at this desk. So I've got a little bit of tunnel vision, but it's time to go eat. Hey, I can go upstairs, the kitchen. I need a breath of fresh air. Go out into the back, let the dogs run around for a minute. You know, I got the garage to go work out in, etc. You know, our house is stupid in that we have 4 bathrooms. I'm like, I can use all 4 of them on a rotating schedule, so I don't have to use the same one twice in the same day or whatever. I mean, it's, you know, so we've got it lucky here for that reason, and I've got enough variety in my setting that it makes it very easy to be stuck in here all the time. So,
And you're excited to prep then, huh?
well,
You're like,
no, I'm kind of in prep right now in that, you know, my coach looks at me and she's like, without saying it, you know, you can hear the subtext in her voice, like, you're too fat right now. So we gotta lean you out a little bit, and then we can focus. So rather than like hardcore grow, like you've been in that growth phase for now 2 years, like let's chip away a little bit of that, and then we can build you back up. So I've dropped like 6 pounds in the past 3 weeks or so, which
is it some water weight or just?
Yeah, well, and you know, some of it's probably supplementation related also. Supplementation related. The thing is, like, the sad thing is a lot of it's just related to GH and the fact that I'm an idiot and sometimes I just fucking forget to do it.
I mean, see,
and you forget for 3 days in a row, and suddenly you drop a couple pounds. You're like, oh, okay.
I'm kind of like, oh yeah, this is the fun part, right? I mean,
yeah. So, because sometimes you're like, I'm tired of sticking myself. Like, it's a pain in the ass, literally sometimes.
See, I think it's fun. I just don't like this. Like if they're like acne or something, I'm just like that. I don't want that part, but.
Oh, you see, that's my jam because I dealt with that since I was 13 anyway. So on cycle or not, it doesn't make any difference for me. It's like my skin's bullshit and hates me anytime, all the time anyway. So it's like, whatever, I can deal with that. But yeah, it's just I forget sometimes. So my schedule is kind of stupid there. So I drop a couple pounds because of that. But mostly it's been just legit. Like I'm on fairly restricted macros where I'm doing low carbs 4 days a week. My low carb days are at 110 grams. So yeah, and honestly, but my protein's so high because on those days my protein gets up to 330. So I'm like, I'm actually more full on my low carb days than I am on my high carb days.
Yeah, yeah, protein definitely fills you up. I mean, I'm assuming you're probably doing the basic chicken and beef. Like, are you doing much seafood yet? Because seafood's kind of
I will not do seafood. Nope,
okay.
that is a red line for me. So, fasted cardio outside of the home and seafood. And if there was some kind of magic meal plan that relied on mushrooms or beets, I'd be like, nope, I'm out. Those are my things.
Mhm.
So I can't do any kind of seafood at all. I've done it in the past and it's just disgusting. So
Yeah, I like seafood for the digestion part. But yeah, since you just said that you're full with your proteins, that's why I was like, yeah, you're probably sticking to like the heavier, denser
yeah,
food.
so I do like I rely on turkey patties, couple of shakes, and then I use Clean Eats, which is a meal prep service.
I remember.
And so the menu for that changes every week. So it's like right now I've got some kind of like pulled pork meal, which is sweet, and then one that's like a I just started them yesterday. I can't remember. It's like a chicken and mashed potatoes with something else thrown in there, kind of thing, which is nice. So it's good to get variety there. Those macros aren't perfect, but I can make them work within my daily targets. So I just have to, if I'm having 6 meals a day, those are going to be two of them, and then I've got to just adjust the other four so that everything adds up correctly.
Now, do you have a show in mind? Is there?
Yeah, it's going to be the Nashville Night of Champions show. So it actually happened this last weekend. So it'll be I'm about 52 weeks out.
Okay, so you got a long haul.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I've got time to reduce the flub a little bit and then grow a little bit. So the idea is get the legs up a little bit more. Although my coach says she's like, your legs are better than you think, and I've totally got like blinders on, like I don't see it, whatever.
I know.
But I've also been doing with her. I've been posing for an hour every week,
Good.
even now this far out because I
That's what I was
know.
gonna say. That's great.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is, as a coach, it's like I'm not going up on stage so that I can get fourth. And
Right.
so it's the exact opposite of what I tell all my clients, which is the result doesn't matter. What matters is that you go up and that you put your best foot forward. I'm like, as a coach though, and if I am dialed in and I'm kicking ass a year out, like I'm going in to win that thing, or I'm going to be beaten by somebody who's a fucking badass. That's all there is to it. So
Totally.
it's one of those two.
Right. And I feel like it is very discouraging to pose so early. Believe me, I know, but it will pay off in the long run when you're starting it now. Cause we're not there's no lines. Like when I do my quarter turns, I'm just like, ugh.
The worst is when you do your quarter turn to the side pose and she
Yep.
says, "Suck it in." I'm like, I'm already sucking it in harder than I thought was possible.
Yep. That's me every
You have
week.
no idea.
Especially when you start like, cause I know, like my obliques, I think get really tight and I like, especially in the morning when you're doing check-in pictures, I'm like, it's way too tight right now to be like really like twisting. And then you're just like holding it in and you're just like, I feel like this should be easier and it's not.
Well, the good thing about doing posing practice this far out is I am seeing improvements week to week. Like you can see how your conditioning changes, even though I'm at like 236 right now.
Yep.
Like comparing that to 241, it's like that's a pretty big difference in my back pose, my waist, in all the poses. Like I can see my ribs now, which I haven't been able to see those in ages. So it's nice to see those changes, and then also just get the poses a little bit more automatic. So you're thinking about fine tuning things in your elbow positioning when you're a year out. So then when I'm 20 weeks out and I'm ready to start prep, I'm like, I got that shit down already. That's fine.
Mhm.
I have one embarrassing story for you.
Go ahead.
So if you've heard this on the podcast before, this might shatter all of your faith in anything that I've ever told anybody before. So, but it just goes to show I try to be a very malleable and agreeable client, and I do what my coach tells me to do. And so when my coach told me to get a waist trainer,
Oh, I know where this is going. Oh,
my immediate
sir,
reaction was
sir.
go to hell, eat shit, and die. And then my second reaction was, which one do you recommend? So I got it, and I wear it when I go to when I walk my dogs. So I wear it for
Good
30 minutes a day.
boy.
Yeah, Yeah.
I'm telling you,
So
man. I know it's different. A lot of people are either all about it or not, but
I really hate the culture and the philosophy behind it more than anything else. Now, the one thing and the buy-in for me was that I have not been able to effectively train my abs in about 12 years because I have a little abdominal hernia here. And so when I do any kind of crunching motion or anything like that, I just feel it kind of put some strain on that area, and it just makes me very uncomfortable. So it's pretty easy for me to manage it and just watch my breathing on compound leg exercises and that kind of stuff. Um, but otherwise, I'm like, my abs are super weak. And so she's like, I want you to do vacuums for 10 minutes a day and
yeah,
then wear the waist trainer when you walk your dogs. And I tell you what a difference it's made. It's crazy. It's
I know.
crazy. Like
I wear
everything's tighter
mine
now.
religiously. I mean, sometimes I slack off on the weekends and everything, but I'm the kind of person I know, like I've worn it enough that I'm okay. But yeah, I had a buddy on the podcast like a week or two ago, and he was like, "Yeah, my coach preaches it. He's like, I wear it, and it's a game changer." And he's like, "I wear the girl ones because they're tighter." And I'm just like, I love that you're admitting this because I know a lot of men, especially, that are just like, absolutely not. And I'm like, well,
Well, I got the Paragon one, which is what she recommended. So it's Velcro in the front, and then you have two additional things that you cinch tighter to kind of tighten it up. So it's like you stick it on and then you adjust, tighten it with two extra Velcro straps.
yeah, I think is that Santi's brand?
I have no idea.
Okay, I think that's the IFBB Pro Santi's brand. But
Okay.
yeah, go on.
But it's not overly restrictive. I can breathe in it just fine. It's probably not as tight as it maybe should be, but it's as tight as it needs to be.
Yeah, but
Um,
it's adjustable because I have one like that too, where you can kind of like if you're bloated that day, you just kind of like just a little
yeah,
bit off.
okay, little ease up here. But the gut check for me, no pun intended, was ordering it. You have to pick your size.
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm gonna roll the dice, and if a medium doesn't fit me, I'm gonna cry.
You
Um,
want that shit to be tight though. Like I tell
well,
that
and
to
it
even girls.
fit, but barely.
Well,
But like just bare, like the Velcro was hanging on for dear life. But it's been like 2 weeks, and now it fits so much easier now. I'm like, all right, cool, whew,
I
all
tell
right,
that to girls too all the time. I'm like, listen, because they're like, what size? And I'm like, you'll be surprised. You're probably going to want to go 2 sizes down because it's like when you get braces and you have to get
hmm
them tightened every so often, you're going to want that shit already like tight as hell because it will get easier. You don't
You
want it
got
to
to
be,
feel like a busted can of biscuits when you first get it.
yeah, like it's going to be real tight. You got to give it like a week to kind of even like get the natural stretching just to,
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm literally like, no, girls, you got to, don't be afraid to go for that extra small.
yeah. I was just praying and praying that the medium would fit, and it did. So my ego survived to fight another day.
Right. Yes. And it will work. I promise.
Yeah. Yeah. There's going to be something down the road later today, tomorrow that's going to destroy my ego a little bit more and set me back, but I'm ready for it. So I'm more resilient than that, I think.
Well, you know what? That makes me proud because I'm like, I know how Darin is about the waist trainers. As soon as you said, I'm like, it clicked. I'm like, oh, he had to go to the dark side.
Yeah, it's awful. And so, when I come back on the podcast, when I'm done with my hiatus, I will cop to that as well. I'm not hiding from it. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not hiding from it. So I figure, as a coach, I need to be able to come at things in a less from a less emotional place and be willing to change my views on things. So
And I will
that
tell
was
you
probably the
right now,
hardest example of that.
those judges want small waists on a female. It doesn't matter what division you're in. The smaller the waist, the better dramatic shape. And that's what they're going to reward.
Yeah, because everything else looks bigger. I mean, it's pretty basic. And for me, it was just like, with the off season and everything, it kind of got out of control a little bit, and just with the fact that I have been able to train abs, and so this is it's more of a postural correction than anything else, and it forces me to just be mindful of the transverse, and so yeah,
Helps with your breathing too. I've noticed it over the years. It's helped me breathe through the diaphragm, not your stomach or your gut. So
yeah,
that's a huge
yeah.
thing.
I haven't been wearing it long enough to notice anything like that, but I just noticed like when I take it off, I'm like, oh, that feels a little bit different now. Okay, cool. And it's not like, oh, I feel so much tighter, I feel skinny or any bullshit like that. It's like, no, like internally, everything just feels a little bit more adjusted.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Darin, I've had you on for over an hour. I knew I could talk
Wow.
to you for like forever, but I was like, well, I can always have you back on when you get more into your prep, and we can talk about all the changes and things and COVID. And
Yeah, I got a whole laundry list of shit here that I was going to complain about that we didn't get to, so we'll have to save it for next time.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, because I know I was hoping to eventually get you on the NPC judging criteria rants.
Oh, yeah, we can talk about that. We can, you name it. You name it. I have thoughts like the lessons that we should have learned from COVID this year in bodybuilding shows that are apparently just going away as soon as like the changing show format. I'm like, that's great. Or the fact that we don't have competitor meetings now. Well, they're already coming back. I'm like, can we please just get rid of that shit? So yeah, we got a lot more ground to cover.
We
Absolutely.
do. So I want to thank you so much. I feel like I didn't get to ask you as much personal questions, so we can always come back to that too. Just like I didn't even ask. There's just a lot. We'll come back, but I
That'll be
appreciate
a part two.
you coming on though. So this was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and congrats. I mean, you said this is episode 18.
Yep, 18.
That's awesome.
Getting there. I'm having a lot of fun. I like to talk. Oh, wait. There is one important question I have to ask because I always ask on my podcast. So when's your birthday?
My birthday?
Yeah.
Do I have to give you a year?
You don't have to give me a year. I'm seeing what sign you are.
Oh, March 2nd, Pisces.
March 2nd, Pisces.
Yeah.
That's why you're such an introvert. You're just like, stay in my bubble.
Yeah. And if it helps with like astrology any deeper, it's 77. So I'm an old man of 43.
Yeah, Pisces is an old soul. I know.
Yeah.
Very intelligent, old soul.
old soul, introvert. I think all the stereotypical Pisces things apply to me, actually.
Pisces love music too, so that makes a lot of fucking sense.
There you go. I like to be nothing if not predictable.
Well, hey, I love it. So, all right. Thank you so much, Darin, and I'll see
Absolutely.
you next time. And
Thanks, Paige. Take care.
yes, you too.
All right. See you.
Bye-bye.